Gary, so great to see you today. I'm just back from a great trip on the West Coast last week, and I'm excited to talk about 2025 and hospitality. How are you doing?
You look younger and more vibrant, and I look pale and older. Why is this?
Because you're aging and I'm sexy, baby. What other,
But
what
you know
other?
what? I feel as good as I've ever felt. I felt as strong as I've ever felt. I wouldn't say my rest as I've ever felt, but
Yeah,
I don't know. You're going. I'm aging and you're not, and we
no,
got to fix that.
I will tell you, Anthony, I was so burnt out at the end of last year. No surprise. We talked about this from all the travel the last 2 weeks of the year. I really shut down. And then nobody really wanted to talk last week in terms of my world. And I had a speaking gig last week out in California. I want to thank the good folks over at Ensemble for asking me to do that with them. And it was a great way to just kind of ramp up to the year. So I'm feeling positive. So I'm feeling good. And we're back to our routine for the year.
Yeah, and what's different this year? What are we going to do different on our show that we didn't do previously? Because we're in our 900th
And
something
something
show.
20-ish
900. I'm
take.
sure Suzanne will be sending us something in
And I'm
second.
sure that the number won't be aligned with the actual number because I keep
Yeah,
screwing things up. So there's no
yeah,
point even
yeah,
trying.
yeah.
But hey, go on. Sorry.
No, and I think, one of the things that, and we can talk about it with our guests, but one of the
Yeah.
things I think we have to be mindful of, and this
Mhm.
is, I don't know how much you feel this because you're not really in the operation, but when you look at this year, okay, a lot of people didn't make their budgets top line
Right.
because they had the year before and they were like, hey, we're going to do better than the year before revenue wise, okay?
Right.
So, but they made their number, a lot of them, at NOI. And the reason they made it NOI is because um, there was a lot of struggle and a lot of adapting. So you got the revenue, you didn't get the revenue, but you got the NOI, and that came through cuts, that came through creativity, and
Right.
that came through sometimes pain. And I think in 2025, you're going to kind of see the same thing. You're going to see a little bit. I think people are better in their budgets this year. They're not going to 7%. They're going to maybe 2 or 3%, but you're still going to see expenses rise and you're going to see revenue stay flat or maybe a little higher. But I think expenses are going to outpace the revenue, and you're going to see a lot of struggle
Mhm.
from the GOP to the NOI. And we got to be mindful of that when we're talking to our guests and when we're going into 2025. Because what I want to talk about is this year, I want to talk about bringing back creativity, bringing back innovation, bringing back the fun of our business. Because between the GOP and the NOI, that's where all the fun gets crushed.
Anthony,
So
it's almost as if you actually know who our guest is today because that's what she's doing. She's bringing back the fun in hospitality and creating some real great branding that, in my opinion, is connecting differently with an audience than some of the things that we see from some of the typical
But,
major.
but yeah, and that's one of the reasons I brought it up. And we'll get into with our guest in a second. But
Yeah.
as a standard, you can think of a lot of fun companies, right? You can think about our guest, or you can think about other brands I won't mention, and it's fun. But
Yeah.
when you have the steering wheel, it's not fun. So how do we relate the guest, right? Because if we want the guest to have fun, our
Yeah.
team has to have fun. Our general manager's got to feel empowered. Our GM's got to be having fun.
Yeah, I love it. So, hey, without further ado, let's get into the conversation because this is such an interesting issue. We've got with us Dina Belon. She's the president of Staypineapple Hotels out there. I don't know if you guys have been following this brand. I got to know Dina last year. I think we officially met at Alice last year, right? And I've been a fan of you and your company ever since.
Oh, thank you so much. And Anthony, I could not agree with you more. The fun has been sucked out of the hospitality industry. Cost containment and blah, blah, blah. I think, and you have to focus on team members, right? You have to make sure everybody's enjoying their job before we
Yeah.
make sure that the guests are enjoying their stay.
Yeah, and it's two things. One, is there any more light? Because when I was talking to you off camera, I should have realized that
No,
there's not a lot of light.
we already went through this.
That's the best. That's the
Well,
best.
she's in Seattle, and the lighting is
I am.
reflecting the ominousness going on outside.
Okay.
I'm
So,
sorry. It is a very overcast day today, and there we
well,
go.
that's
Yeah, if I
better.
get a
That's
little
better.
closer, the lighting picks up a
Oh,
little
that's
bit.
much better. That's ten
Okay,
times better.
But
That's
it'll
good.
fade. It'll fade. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Let's
it'll fade.
just get on with it.
All right. So the you just said the asset, or you said cost containment, and there are people in your position and people like me that we sell it and we believe it to our core, but then they come out of a meeting and people are literally like just feel gutted, because I did my cost containment. I did everything you asked me to do, and we're still not making bonuses. We're still not able to bring on that front desk agent. Still not able to get support. I'm still running a shift. I'm a GM or whatever it is. And so it's one thing to say it. It's one thing to put it on the mission statement. It's another thing to be, as a friend of mine and someone I work with says, shoulder to shoulder. We have to be shoulder to shoulder with people, because I see a lot of people spewing that crap, and it's not real.
Yeah, I love you. You've heard this statement for decades. If we take care of our team members, they'll take care of our guests. It is such a overused and unauthentic statement, in my opinion. I think what we need to do is care about each other, care about our colleagues, care about those we work with, and care that they love what they do. First, recruit the right people, right? Recruit people that want to be of service, and then everybody work together to create the culture. I don't create the culture of Staypineapple. The team creates the culture of Staypineapple. Each of our hotels, we happen to have boutique unique hotels, right? Each of those hotels have a little bit of a different culture and different feel to them, not because of the building, not because what I've done, not because what our design team has done, but because of the team that's there at the hotel and the general manager that's there. Each of those people there, if we allow them to be their authentic self and don't ask them to be a robot, then they create the atmosphere and the culture of the organization. And if we can create a company that allows them to be who they are, then they do something really special, which is their job is the place of joy in their day.
I
Yeah.
love that, Dina.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me
But
just
go
Let me
ahead. Go ahead.
real quick. I think you're absolutely right. At least it's been that way in my career arc. The more authentic I allowed myself to be, the more success and positivity came out of it, which kind of, makes you move forward. Sorry, Anthony, go for it.
No. I'm going to agree and disagree. Not disagree. I'm going to agree with you, but then I'm just going to caveat. You just said the more I made myself be authentic. Nope. You were allowed to be authentic because you felt safe.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, if you don't feel safe, and you've told me stories of why you've moved on in your career because
Mhm.
you didn't feel respected and safe.
Mhm.
So if you don't feel, and I'll use the word not even respected, because now that's just the cost of doing business. You got to respect everyone, right? It's not like back in the day when I can get cursed out and chairs thrown at me when I was a GM. It's a different time. Everyone has to be respected, and but you can respect people but still not feel safe. You ever walk into a
Mhm.
meeting and the leader is the first person to talk, right? The leader should be the last person to talk, right? And because they should know, they should let the people drive the conversation. And so to me, safety is a really important way of having fun. I always say when I take over buildings, especially ones that we really need to get out of bankruptcy, I say, bring your flak jacket and your helmet. Bring a rifle. It's going to be ugly. Don't take the job. You're going to hate it. Don't take it. Don't take it. Don't take it. I'm telling you right now. Yeah, I'm paying you more money. Maybe you'll make somewhere else. Don't take the job. And they were like, but why? I said, because you're going to hate your job. And they're like, why? So because we have to turn it out around with no money and we have to take it out of bankruptcy. However, if we don't laugh from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock or whenever we leave, I'll fire you. Okay, like we will make fun of ourselves of how ridiculous this is and how hard we're working and how stupid this is. And if we can't make fun of it, then you'll crash. But if you can make fun of it and you can laugh and you can feel safe and we can all understand that this is ridiculous and people outside this hotel don't understand what the crazy people are doing, then you're a part of my team. And
Dina,
every single person takes the job, and every single person's usually successful because they understand this is stupid.
Yeah,
And that creates a bond, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
creates a unique bond among a team. So you can use things that are difficult and challenging, like we've had over the last year. We replaced our entire tech stack last year, and it was tough. It was hard, and it was hard on the teams. There was so much change. I asked so much of our team, and I think through that diversity, I have observed when I'm out at the hotels, I have observed the teams at the hotels being tighter, having a tighter bond, having more cohesion among themselves, not because we've done
Right.
anything, but just because what they've been through. And that can be austerity, that can be tech tax change outs, that can be, going through a turnaround, that can be anything that might have impacted them.
Good. And let me also point, Anthony, you're muted, so I'll fill the space by saying, and if that team is a cohesive unit, they're more likely to stay engaged in their job and stay with you because younger people in particular want that social group, right, Dina?
Yep. Yeah. The bond is so important to who we are and what we do. And we do it in small ways, mostly, right? We don't have uniforms at our hotels.
Right.
The back of house team does that are
Right.
going to mess up their clothes just so that we don't have expense on them. But the front of house team is encouraged to dress the way they want to dress and what makes them feel authentic and themselves. And we work really hard to make sure that everybody creates an atmosphere of safety, right? And that all people are welcome and everybody, the way they are, is welcome to come to work. We don't believe in leave your personal life at home and when you come to work, put on a mask and be a thing. We want you to bring your problems, right? If you're having a bad day, that's okay. Maybe you need to spend a couple hours in the back office
Right.
working on some reports because you just need to get your head right. That's all right. Like, come in, do your thing. A place of not just safety. I love the word safety, but also
Where you feel
sharing and
valued.
belief and caring, right? I have sat in our lobbies and cringed at the things I've heard our front of house team say to guests. I'm
Right.
just like, oh my God, did they just say that? I grew up in the branded world, so I'm well trained by Marriott, right? And that little training in me just goes, "Oh my God." And then I watch a guest bust out laughing and the authentic interaction happen between them, and I just go, "Okay, right? I'm an old lady. I don't get it." Like, that was really awesome. I wish I had a video recording of that experience so I could show everybody what that looks like and to not be afraid of it. I think in the hospitality industry, we're so afraid of allowing those personal, impactful interactions to happen at our hotels because we're afraid of what's going to happen.
That's
yeah.
interesting because that is the glue that holds a company together. Hoteliers are so great. I've said this 10 million times at doing like 99% of everything absolutely amazing. But that 1% to take you over the top, to stay in somebody's brain is the people and the authenticity there. Anthony?
But also, you're training the guests to understand what kind of
Right.
philosophy the company has,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
you're not going to get, to use your word, Marriott, high-end hotel and Marriott guests to
Right.
come in, and that person who's not in uniform talking in a way that that Marriott guest is offended by,
Mhm.
or I'm not using Marriott, but you know what I'm saying. So it's got to meet your customer base, and so when
Yep.
those two things are aligned, there's nothing better.
Yeah, we say, there are guests that are not our guest, and sometimes we get complaints. I'll use a non-employee related complaint. We had a marketing campaign that was called Kick Ass Cocktails and Big Ass Cakes, and we had guests that were offended by that. And my statement was always, they're not our guest. Then let them go down to the Marriott Courtyard and stay at the Marriott Courtyard. Don't dislike them. Everybody's welcome. But at some level, you have to buy into our
Right.
shenanigans too, right?
Listen,
Like,
in
we
this
have
day and
Split
age,
Naked on the door. like, you have to be able to buy into that to stay at a
If
Staypineapple.
you're offended by the word ass at this day and age, you got to be. You should probably not come out of your house.
I'd be nowhere without out that, because that's how Anthony describes me every single day. So, what are you going to do? All right. So, Dina, before we move on to that, I just want to throw this in there. Somebody's saying, Anthony, my 11-year-old daughter is homesick, and we just watched Hotel Impossible. It's her favorite show, and she loves you. Up in New Hampshire, isn't that kind of where you are?
Dude, I could tell you every ounce of that show verbatim.
I'm sure.
That show was the most difficult show. Well, that's not true, because all 108 were difficult. But yeah, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I will say, but Anthony, one of the things that she's talking about is how do we get closer to that guest, right? And one way to do that is by being authentic human beings. But Dina, you've got to figure out a lot of stuff around that. Good conversation is great, but the more insight you have into that person staying with you, the more you can have that power of authenticity. So I know over the last year, you were rethinking your entire tech stack to go in this direction. I know it couldn't have been an easy process for you. So I'm happy to see you recovering.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. 2025 is going to be our recovery year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have always culturally had a focus on hyper personalization with our guests.
Mm-hmm.
But that looked like, for us, I'm a front desk agent and I overhear something in the lobby, or a guest says something to me at check-in, or I'm a bartender and I hear a husband and wife talking to each other, and I glean information that I then use to go create a special experience for that guest. Now we have technology that's going to help support the team members, and it's not going to have to all be ad hoc, real time interaction that we're doing. Now it can also be based on some historical data as well, which is a little bit of the opposite. If you talk about hyper personalization and
Right.
personalization, most people don't know the difference between the two. Personalization is really taking historical data and creating unique features for a guest or a retail customer or whatever it is, right? Hyper
Right.
personalization is really using technology and real-time data to create very impactful experiences that are relevant to the guest at that moment. We've been doing hyper personalization for a very long
Right.
time without the technology piece.
Right.
Now we've got technology underneath our team members that can help support them. An example I can give you is our PMS system now has a pop-up that shows a summary of a guest profile. So I'll tell you my profile, right?
Yeah.
Likes quiet rooms, enjoys a martini at night, right? Like, those are the things that are in my profile notes. VIPP,
Right.
right? Like, those are the notes that are in there that the team member sees on their pop-up screen that gives them clues. And it doesn't have to be something that I say or a body language that they pick up on, which they're
Mm-hmm.
still doing. They're still trained for. They're still trained for that human interaction piece. But we also have the technology. What I feel bad for is the companies that are trying to do this straight from a technology perspective, and
Right.
they don't have the culture piece yet. You really have to get the culture piece first to be able to deliver and use the technology, in my opinion.
Yeah, because if you know somebody likes a martini, but you don't know how to address that, or you feel like that, you're 100% right, and that makes perfect sense. But what's interesting to me, you just taught me something. I've been on VIP lists when I go into a hotel. I sometimes see my name on the VIP list, but I've never been on the VIP list. How do you get on the VIP list?
That's our extra specialist.
Yeah, that's my new goal in life. I gotta get on the VIP list.
You got to move up in the world, Anthony. That's
Yeah,
a goal to
I'm
have.
trying. I'm
He's,
trying. I'm
he's, he's
trying.
too much. He's too much of a slacker. So,
I like mediocrity.
one of the things that I found with personalization is the hotel brands have gotten as far as, and I just say this is a mass generalization. They've gotten as far as, like, I might be able to pick the room category I have. I might be able to pick the type of pillow I want and add in any special requests. But there's no real insight into understanding who I was. So much so, this is not me alone. I've stayed at hotels, a specific hotel, multiple times. And then every time I go there, they're asking if it's the first time I stayed with them. After a while, that becomes quite tiresome. And I know with your team, you could avoid that sort of thing. When you take that shortcut to knowing I've already been there, then you're already starting a real relationship with that human being who's checking you in.
Yeah, and we want to have that relationship not just when you're on property, right?
Mhm.
That's truly a lifestyle brand, right? Like,
Right.
how do we interact with you and engage with you and create connection when you're on property or at home or traveling in another hotel for all
Yeah.
I care, right? You're going to Cincinnati and we don't have a hotel in Cincinnati. If we know that for some reason, maybe we send you some interesting information about places to go see in
Oh, I
Cincinnati.
love that.
I,
Right.
just because we care about you.
It also creates that top of mind moment that they're more likely to think of you than somebody else when booking a trip in a city where you're.
Think about that. Think about that for a second, right?
Yeah.
We all travel a lot. You're in a hotel and you're going to your hotel soon, but all of a sudden, in my profile, for some reason, you got that information that, oh, by the way, I'll be in Cincinnati. And I get an email from your team that says, oh, by the way, when you're in Cincinnati, don't miss out this or that, the other thing. You would fall off the floor. You would literally
Mhm.
die if that happened because that doesn't happen. And
Right.
I was just talking to somebody about it recently. It's you can't the stuff that we're trying to do today. It's not about money. It's about, and it's not, I hate the word connection. It's not because that is so important, connection, but it's so overused. It's about unexpected,
Mhm.
something unexpected.
Yep.
You spend all this money, you're traveling, and one person just says, hey, why don't you go to the museum in Cincinnati? And you will talk about that forever. So you spent all the money on hiring people. You spent all the money on the asset. You spent all the money on the tech stack. You spent all this money, but the only thing that they're going to remember is the thing that cost you $0.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's uber important, right? It is, and I'll backtrack to an earlier conversation we were having. We also need to know that information and care that much about our team members. So,
Mhm.
like, we have profiles for our team members in our CRM, just like we do guests. So the reason I might be able to do that for a guest is because I know Joe at the Maxwell grew up in Cincinnati and
Right.
he can actually provide some like local information even though we don't have a presence in Cincinnati. That I need to know that information, right? I need to connect those dots. And if
Mhm.
I don't know my team members as intimately as I know my guests or more so, then I am going to miss that opportunity. And I think that's where I we're still we're still not connecting those dots. And that's that old-fashioned phrase, take care of your team members better than you take care of your guests. Yes, but you can use that as well to create great experiences for your guests. So for us, like we know um, Rose at the Maxwell really loves cycling. So we have
Right.
free bikes at our hotels. A lot of hotels do that. But what Rose does is if we have somebody coming into the Maxwell that is really into cycling, people that are really into cycling are not going to take our cruisers and ride around Seattle. They're not the kind of bike that they normally ride, right?
Right.
But Rose will connect them to the right cycling shop in town and get them a discount and get them some freebies
Wow.
because she
Right.
has a relationship with that
Yep.
cycling shop. And at
Mhm.
that personal level, that is what makes the impact.
Yeah,
That's
and
powerful.
you just said something that's the difference between service and real service, right? Everyone has Google on their phone. Everybody can find that bike shop, but
Yeah.
not everybody has a connection to a discount. Not everybody has a connection to free little things. Not everybody says, "Hey, Joe, John's coming. Just tell John. Take care of John. He's a friend of mine. Hey, tell John, tell Joe that you're my friend." Like that's it, right? We can all find that information, but it's I always if you look at my phone, I have, like all of us, I have a billion mics on my phone. So Mike the plumber, Mike this, Mike that, Mike that. We all have different connections to, especially in the
New
hospitality
York,
industry.
maybe everyone's named Mike
But
or Mark or
but I literally have 72 mics on my phone. But
yeah.
my point being is that everybody wants a guy or a girl. Like everybody's like, I got a guy, I got a girl, I got somebody for you, right? Is there anything like going into a city and the concierge got you, right?
Hmm.
They got you. Like you call them up, hey, I'm coming in, got you. Don't worry about it. It's all good. We're used to that because we're in this industry, so we have friends that got us. But as a guest, the guest wants that, with Cheers, right? That theme song in
Everybody knows
Cheers.
your name.
Everybody knows your name, even if they don't know your name. And everybody knows that Glenn likes golfing, so he gets all this golfing information.
Dina, I've been making fun of that for years because I don't play golf. I've never played golf. I will never ever plan to play golf. Yet all the brands just send me information on golf stays instead of understanding what motivates me to maybe take that special trip.
Yeah, and
Get you,
Go for it,
and
go
Dina.
ahead.
you have to be really careful if you're creating an expectation around this and you're asking guests this kind of information, you better deliver on it too.
Right.
Because
Of
there's
course.
nothing more annoying than me telling you stuff about myself and then you doing nothing with it.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
have you ever been in a company, Dina, where your boss asks you your opinion and then forgets that you had an opinion? Right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing with a guest. They tell you something and then you forgot it. Like I would imagine, just based on knowing you for a few minutes, that you're hyper vigilant. That when an employee, general manager, housekeeper, whatever says, "Dina, I need whatever," and you go,
Mhm.
"Okay, we'll take care of that." Can you sleep at night without taking care of that?
No. Oh my God, no. Yeah, our team members have my cell phone number. It's readily available, and I have them call me. I last week the cook down at our property in Portland, Hotel Rose, uh, called me and said, "Hey Dina, my girlfriend's going to the Maxwell or going up to Seattle, and I want to put her up at the Maxwell, but that's not exactly company policy. I'm supposed to be with her to use an employee rate."
Aw,
And I was
right.
like, "I got you. I got it. Don't worry about it. I'll take
That's
care of
awesome.
it."
Right.
Right? Like,
That's the stuff that goes really far with one of your team members.
yeah.
You turn that into a real positive that they're going to remember when they're having a bad moment,
Yep.
as opposed to adding something to a list of
And
negatives.
and here's an idea. I actually care about him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And the tenure in your company is probably longer than most.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, we have the student that works the front desk like everybody else does, but um, by and large, I mean, we have housekeepers that have worked for us for 25 years. We have, we have a number of our general managers that started out of college at the front desk and are now general managers. So,
But how many general managers leave and then come back?
oh, we've had that too. Yeah.
Of
A
course you have,
couple of them.
right? Yeah.
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 So,
They're
Dina,
like, it's scary out there.
yeah,
Exactly. They come back like and go, "Wow, the world's mean."
so Dina, so you want to get more connected to the guests, utilizing technology as well as the savvy and smarts of your team. And you went through this big process over the last year, rebuilding the tech stack. How did you approach that? And maybe what are some of the lessons learned during that process?
Yeah, I mean, we did an extensive RFP process first of all,
Mhm.
and really focused on two things. One is what was the frontline team members' intuitive experience with the tool. That was like number one, had to be right. Because the older system that we were working with that we're all familiar with, was not intuitive. Like if I bring somebody in, like I love hiring somebody from the healthcare industry
Right.
because they are innately people that want to take care of somebody, but they've
Mhm.
probably gotten burned out on whatever the hard job is that they have, right? So I bring people in from other industries a lot that don't necessarily know systems.
Right.
And so how can I put a system in front of people that is very intuitive and very easy to use? It's an Apple phone
Right.
on a computer, right? And then secondly, the most important part was that it aligns to our culture of innovation. So it had to be companies that were also super innovative and always looking to change and move and become better and be more interesting and be willing to go along on this ride with us. When we call them and say, hey, we have this great idea, we want to do this thing, they go, I'm in, let's figure it out. So those two things were the utmost importance. We went all the way through the RFP process on our PMS
Mhm.
and got really close to picking one, and then took a step back and redid the process a little bit. We didn't do it completely, but and ended up picking a different one for that second reason. We ended up with Muse. Primarily, that decision was because of that, really looking for a company that wanted to innovate. And then we needed to find systems that would integrate with each other.
Right.
So we used to talk about a single source of truth. So
Mhm.
all of our customer data was in Salesforce, and
Right.
Salesforce was the single source of truth.
And Walter Cronkite's gone. So there you go.
So the problem
90% of
was,
people listening to this have no idea who Walter Cronkite
No,
is.
but hopefully they're
I
going
know,
to go
oh, it's
learn.
so sad.
Yeah. Go on, Tina. Sorry.
So now, instead of a single source of truth, we have an integrated source of truth. So all of the systems have the same information in them. So our PMS has what the CRM has in it, and back and forth, right? Which was super important to our ability to get information in front of the people that matters, which is frontline employees. We had a lot of data on guests. We couldn't get it in front of them. We
Right.
couldn't easily and intuitively put it right in front of their face so that they could action it. And
Isn't it
then we
amazing?
tied our
Is it amazing that that's the biggest problem in our industry?
integration is, yeah, 100%.
How many systems? Just so our audience understands, I don't have the exact number, but I'm sure since you've been through this recently, how many integrations you have in one hotel?
Oh, there's 6 integrations with on-property systems.
And this is after you spend a lot of time and effort to try to minimize that throughout the process.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
even imagine. And this is why hoteliers out there are struggling so much. And we see a lot of different strategies, either major hotel companies trying to build their own internal tech stacks and then maybe sell it out, or the opposite, where the companies are trying to form a lot of different divisions so they can have a all-in-one kind of a solution.
There's one brand that you may or may not have worked for before that has been working on their own new technology for the last, I think, 637 years, and they still haven't gotten it right.
Yeah.
I went behind the desk of a hotel I'm consulting for, I swear to God, and it had DOS. And I didn't know
I
that
see that.
DOS, they still had DOS in PMS systems.
Oh,
And
it's crazy.
I literally like felt something in my chest.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought
well,
somebody was pranking me.
yeah, for me, it just reminded me of the good old days of being in high school and seeing that
Yeah,
flashing.
but see, we all remember DOS. We all remember seeing screens like that. We all remember the old GDS and travel agent screens
Yeah,
and all that. But people, like you said, an iPhone on a computer, that's what they know. They don't know. They look at that, they're like, is that a cave?
Yeah,
right.
what is that? Yeah.
Right. And studies have been proven, if the technology is like that, the folks are not going to be willing to stay as long. Further, it's an impediment to the customer service representative actually making eye contact and having a conversation with someone. We've all been at the desk where they're
Yep.
looking down and typing for like 4 hours. Like,
Right.
why is this taking so long?
Happening over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we
Oh,
needed to integrate our POS system,
Right.
right? And our housekeeping system. So the
Mhm.
housekeepers have the same information in front of them, and our engineers system, because everybody's got their own specialty system that they have to have, right? Well,
Yep.
that's great because that's the best in class for them for what they do. But all of that stuff has got to talk to each other. And then we lastly we replaced our customer communication system, which, for texting and that kind of stuff. So it was a
Yeah.
lot. It was a
Yeah.
lot.
It was. So before we wrap up, what's the one piece of advice you could give to hoteliers out there that want to embark on a similar journey of refiguring out their technology?
Don't do it.
Recognize that even more than on-site impact, it is going to impact your back end. It
Right.
impacted our revenue in 2024 because all the connections to all of our distribution channels broke.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
had to fix them one by one, right?
Oh,
Like you have to rebuild all of that. You have to be prepared and know that you are changing out all of your backbone, and that backbone connects to very antiquated systems. I mean, let's talk about the industry as a whole and what all hotel reservations are built on.
right.
It's
Yep.
really old. I
Yep.
don't know.
The house of cards for
But it's a
sure.
house of cards. It is. And so I may now have new great technology, but I'm still having to connect to those old systems.
Yeah. One of the biggest companies out there is rethinking everything from the bottom up, and it's taking years because they were an early adopter decades and decades and decades ago.
Yeah.
And they were, now they've got to rethink everything and redo everything because everything is absolutely changed. Dina, will you, if Alice is occurring in a couple of weeks, will I get to see you?
Yes, I'll be there.
Oh, awesome. That's wonderful. And in the meantime, how can people learn more about Staypineapple? I know you've been working really hard to partner with owners and operators out there in the last couple of years.
Yeah, we have. We have been owned and operated by a single entity, and we recently have taken on our first third-party ownership or third-party management contract with another owner. So that's really exciting, and we're learning a lot. Having been very our life has been very simple with a single owner and vertically integrated. I think the complexity of having other owners has been a really good growth opportunity for the team. And our first owner is really great, very patient. I warned him up front that this was the first one and that we were probably going to make some missteps. So that was exciting. And you can check us out. Just Google Staypineapple and we'll pop up. We're all over the place. We're a quirky, unique brand. You can see one of our hotels behind Glenn there. That is Hotel Z in San Diego.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Dina. We really appreciate you being here. Do us a favor. Just hang out 1 sec while we.
Thank you, Dina.
We'll see you later. All right, buddy. Thanks for tuning in. That was a great show, Anthony. I love how honest and open she is about this kind of stuff and the critical nature of having to really figure out ways to break down those barriers between us and our customers.
Yeah, but she gets it on a real level. I've heard people in her position bullshit their way through these interviews. She's the real deal. She is like I would work for her tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, everybody, make sure you follow us. Get that audio version of the podcast wherever you get your podcast, and rewatch the video version wherever you like to see us on the socials. And all shows are, of course, housed at novacancynews.com. Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll be back tomorrow. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on, and
be kind to yourself.
See you guys later. Have a great one.